I've had creepy encounters with delivery guys in the past, but this one has got to be the creepiest of them all. It made me question my own sanity. About 2 weeks ago, my girlfriend came over for some Netflix and chill. After a while, we got hungry and decided to order pizza. I picked up my phone and called a Domino's pizza joint not too far from my apartment. It rang once before a guy picked up.
Domino's Pizza, may I take your order, please?
He emphatically belched. He pretty much sounded like one of those hyper telemarketers.
Yeah, I'll have 2 large pizzas with some extra onion rings on top.
I responded.
Noted, sir. Your order will be delivered shortly.
It wasn't the first time I was ordering pizza from them, so I didn't doubt the assurance he gave.
Sure. Thanks, bro.
I said before I ended the call. We were hopeful the pizza would arrive within 30 minutes, but after 4 long gut-wrenching hours, it still hadn't arrived. My girlfriend got tired of waiting and decided to leave. I was then left alone in the apartment to possibly die of starvation. A few minutes after my girlfriend left, I heard 3 firm knocks on the door. I thought she might have forgotten something, so I briskly walked to the door to open it, but as the door swung open, I was shocked because it wasn't the face of my girlfriend staring back at me. It was the face of some disturbing-looking dude with raggedy hair and bloodshot eyes. His eyes were sunken, and the bags around them were massive. He even looked tattered, and he may or may not have had a blood stain on his shirt, now that I think about it. Of course, at the moment, I wasn't really paying attention to all those extra details. The only things that stood out for me were the Domino's branded shirt he had on, and the box of pizzas in his hand.
What the hell, dude? I've been waiting for this thing for hours!
I snapped at him. He didn't say a word. He just stood there with a blank expression on his face. His head was slightly tilted to the left for some reason. I would have assumed he was high, but I couldn't smell a drop of alcohol or weed on him. I at least expected to hear an apology or something, but none was tendered.
You know what, Richard?
I peered closer at the name tag pinned to his chest.
Brad's son. I'll take this up with your manager. Give me that.
I grudgingly pulled the boxes of pizza out of his hand. If it wasn't for the fact that my stomach was rumbling like an earthquake, my ego probably wouldn't have let me take the pizza. I gave him the stink eye before slamming the door in his face. It was already after dark, but at least I finally had something to eat. I laid back on the couch and got ready to dig in. But as I flipped one of the boxes open, I met another shocker. One of the pizza slices had a huge chunk bitten out of it. I was livid. I felt like breaking a baseball bat over that guy's head, or running him over with a car. But fortunately for the guy, I lacked the energy to perform any of those feats. I dropped the pizza back on the table and grabbed my phone instead. I called the Domino's restaurant again. But unlike before, I didn't get a speedy response. The call rang about 5 or 6 times before I finally got a response.
Hello, this is Domino's. How may I help you?
This time, the voice on the other side sounded more mature and calm.
Yeah, can you please transfer me to the manager? I'd like to speak to him about my order and the delivery service I received. I'm the manager. What's the problem?
The man asked.
My pizza was delivered 4 hours late, and it looked like some douchebag had eaten out of it. Oh, that's terrible. Did you get the name of your delivery guy?
The manager asked.
Yes, his name was Richard Bradson.
The call line suddenly went cold. I could hear him breathing on the other side, but he wasn't saying anything.
Hello? Are you still there?
I asked.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
His voice abruptly began to sound jittery and nervous. I could immediately tell something was wrong.
When did you receive this delivery?
The manager asked.
At about 8:27 p.m. this evening.
I responded. The line went cold again. I was tempted to ask if there was a problem, but I just decided to wait for his response. I grabbed a piece of pizza so I could calm my raging stomach while I waited. Eventually, he responded with a stern tone.
I'm afraid that's impossible, son. Richard Bradson is dead.
Instantly, I felt a cold chill run down my spine. Maybe he was playing a prank or just trying to pull my leg. I wondered.
That's ridiculous. I just saw him like 3 minutes ago.
I asserted.
I don't know what to tell you, son, but it's all over the news. You can go see for yourself. He died in a freak car accident earlier this afternoon. He had never missed an order up until today. It's just tragic, really. He was...
While the manager was still speaking, I slowly lowered my phone onto the couch and tuned to the news channel. I was left completely horror-stricken by the first frame. Pictures of the same guy who was standing in front of my door minutes ago were all over the news. He and 3 others were involved in a crash. He had been declared deceased. I felt like I was losing my mind. I jolted off the couch and dashed to the lobby. But there was no trace of him. I even ran out into the cold, dark street, but he was gone. I walked back to my apartment, bolted the doors, and just sat on my couch. I tried to make sense of the entire evening, but nothing made sense. If you ever notice your boss acting strange, don't ignore it. Don't pretend that you're okay with it and it'll go away. I'm saying this because I thought I could ignore my boss, and what happened was bad enough that I'm in therapy for it. It happened a week ago. I'm a pizza delivery driver, and every night is the same. I clock in and make a few deliveries throughout the night. Then towards the end of my shift, my boss makes strange comments to me. Usually, I just ignore him, but this one night he was especially pushy.
Hey, you look beautiful tonight. Why don't you come to my house after your shift and we can get a few drinks?
Thanks, but I'm busy.
I'm just joking with you, Gloria. Lighten up.
I laughed, but I could see his stare following me as I pulled out my phone to clock out. Right before I hit the button, however, the phone rang. The manager walked over to it, picked it up, and answered.
Hey, we got a late order. Gloria, why don't you take it?
I sighed and reluctantly agreed. The address was a little ways away in a well-to-do neighborhood, but I had no idea what kind of horror awaited me there. I knocked on the door and a woman answered.
Oh, the pizza is already here. I'm so sorry. Come in while I get my wallet. Yeah, okay.
I stepped inside and immediately noticed something strange. There were photos of me up on the walls. Every wall was covered with pictures. I recoiled, realizing that these photos were taken from the CCTV footage from the surveillance cameras my manager had installed a while back.
What the?
Before I could finish my sentence, however, I heard footsteps and whirled around toward the door. There stood my manager. You can't possibly understand the horrifying picture he painted as he stood there. My car's headlights casting a shadow on his disfigured body. His hands hung at his sides, much larger than the rest of his lanky arms. His round eyes stared at me wildly, and a grin spread over his face. I could barely stop screaming, but I still felt hopeful. Maybe he had come to rescue me.
What are you doing here?
You always protect me, and now I can have you. You think that you could just ignore me and get away with it?
I glanced past him and saw that his wife was standing just behind him, her eyes fixed on the ceiling as she muttered over and over.
He'll have you. He'll always have you. He'll have you. He'll always have you.
Her face showed no emotion, as if she were not aware of what was going on. I screamed and ran into the next room, but he came after me, screaming and shouting. I could hear his heavy footsteps thudding behind me, his huge hands reaching for me. I managed to dodge into another room, but as I ran, I saw his wife advance from another doorway.
What is wrong with you? Don't you care that your husband is trying to hurt me?
Still staring at the ceiling, she simply grinned wider and raised a rolling pin in the air. I realized then that they were both psychos, and I had to escape. I made a run for the window and managed to jump out just as they reached me, closing the window behind me. My car was only a few feet away and I made it into it with barely enough time to lock the doors behind me. The manager and his wife came running out. The manager held nothing in his hands, but the rage on his face was evident. He gnashed his small teeth as he saw where he was, turning toward his wife and telling her something. I couldn't hear, But the next moment he turned and began to run toward me, his wife following just behind him. I put the car in reverse and peeled out of the driveway, not looking back until I was a few blocks away. I reported them to the police that night and they were arrested. As it turns out, he was responsible for some of the missing girls in town over the past few months. Never ignore your boss. Never ignore them. What makes this whole ordeal worse, however, is that some of the pictures on his walls weren't from the CCTV footage. Some of them were of me when I was sleeping, when I was driving, or even when I was alone in my own home. I can only conclude that my boss had been stalking me and planning this attack for months. It still sends a chill down my spine when I think about it. But the worst thing is the realization of how close I could have come to the same fate as those other unfortunate girls. Don't ignore your boss if they act strange. Don't assume that it'll blow over and that everything will be okay. Reach out to someone you trust and make sure that they know what's going on. Your safety is more important than anything else. I can safely say that I'm never going to deliver pizza again.
Hey guys, my name is Alan, and let me tell you, I'm a big pizza fanatic. I like to try every flavor you can possibly imagine, whether it's exotic or not. If there's pizza, I'll be there. Anyway, every time a new pizza place opens, I go there to buy it. Do you know why? Because I'm terrified of pizza deliveries. It may seem strange, but after I tell you my story, I'm sure you'll agree with me. It all started one normal night. It was 4 a.m. and the doorbell woke me up. It was probably a kid playing a joke on me, so I slept on. The next day, I watched the security camera to see if the kid was a neighbor I recognized, but to my surprise, it wasn't. The person who had rung my doorbell was a pizza delivery guy. But he was no ordinary pizza delivery guy. Something was wrong with him. The man had no lips. His teeth were crooked and rotten, and his mouth was huge. But what scared me the most was the look on his face. The person knew where the security camera was, and I felt that when I looked at him. He looked me straight in the eyes. Pizza delivery. After those short but terrifying words, the man dropped off the pizza and left. When I went to check my front door, the pizza was still there. I had the audacity to open it, and when I did, I almost threw up. The pizza was rotten, full of maggots and bugs. I threw it in the trash and saved the video just in case. From that day on, the nightmare started to repeat itself. Every day at dawn, this man would ring my doorbell, and after saying pizza delivery, he would just leave. I called the police several times, and once they even arrested him, but they let him go very quickly. Why would they arrest him? For bringing me a pizza? The only option I had was to confront him, but to tell you the truth, I was scared to death. This man was scary, and I didn't know what he was capable of. I let everything take its natural course until one day, I discovered that if you don't take care of these things, they will take care of you. This was a Saturday night. My wife had taken our children to their grandparents' house where they would spend the weekend. I was alone in the house, or so I thought. I was about to leave the bathroom when suddenly, in the bathtub, I saw something that caught my attention. It was a slice of rotten pizza, and to make it even worse, the pizza was hot. Someone had left it here recently. Upon my discovery, I noticed eyes watching me from the dining room. I ran to the bathroom door and the invader came rushing in, but I managed to close the door first. On the other side, the violent knocking was not long in coming. This person was desperate to get into the bathroom. I didn't know what he wanted or what he could do to me, but I definitely didn't want to find out. Seconds, minutes, and hours passed. I wanted to get out of the bathroom and try to escape, but I knew that if I did, this man could catch me. I listened as footsteps headed towards the dining room door, the only way out of my house. That's when I came up with a plan. Open the door, run to the kitchen, grab my cell phone, and hide in the bathroom again. That way I could call the police and save myself. I opened the door and started to run, but something stopped me. Not one, but 3 men knocked me down. They were all dressed like pizza delivery guys, but unlike the man who was harassing me, they had strange and terrifying animal masks. From the dining room came the man who, without the mask, was scarier than any other. The man who visited me at night. Please don't do anything to me. All my money is in my mattress. It has a lock on the side of the wall. Take everything. After a signal from the stalker's head, all the delivery guys with masks started to destroy my house. They pulled out drawers, broke the furniture, and threw any papers everywhere. It was as if they were looking for something, but they didn't really stop to look at anything. At the same time, the unmasked man came towards me with a pizza box while two of the other masked men were holding me. Without warning, the man started shoving rotten pizza into my mouth. I could feel the worms, the bugs, and the rotten cheese all over my tongue at the same time. I wanted to vomit, but before I could get anything out of my mouth, the unmasked man put his foot in my mouth so I couldn't spit out the food. Come on, I thought you liked pizza. With all my strength, I managed to free my right arm, and grabbing my attacker's foot, I pulled him back and he fell. I hit the man holding my other arm and ran as fast away from my house as I could. In just a few seconds, the men were already catching up to me. One lunged at me and grabbed my feet, while the other three grabbed my arms and ran. As the four men held me outside my house, the unmasked man approached me with a screwdriver that he pulled out of his pocket. The man sat on top of me and began to rub the tool in the center of my chest, indicating that this is where he was going to stick it. Please, don't hurt me. I haven't done anything to you. I have a wife and children that I love. They won't know what to do without me. Please stop. Ignoring me, the man raised the screwdriver, ready to attack me, but he never did. The man stopped completely, not because of my speech, but because behind him, several policemen were pointing their guns at him. Once they were all arrested, I learned that my neighbors saw the men entering my house and immediately called the police. Under heavy interrogation, the unmasked men confessed that they were not really delivery guys, but had been hired to kill me. The whole show with the pizza and the disguises were a ruse to make the police think that I was killed by psychopaths or members of some strange cult. Shortly after, they also confessed that it was my wife who had ordered the hit. She never went to see her parents, but to her lover instead. She hoped that after I had been killed, she could keep the house and live with another man. Today, we're on trial, and I'm about to win. Nowadays, I live a quiet life with my children, and we're all pizza fanatics. But as I told you before, from that day on, I'm always going to pick it up on my own, lest I run into the wrong delivery guy.